Persistent Rumor presents Chocolate Yoddah Live. Hey. Hi, folks. Chocolate Yoddah here, spelled Y-O-D-D-A-H, because film studios are litigious. Welcome to another installment of Chocolate Yoddah Live. And just in case, I know it's in the opening on YouTube, but it is brought to you by my podcast, The Persistent Rumor. That said, let's see what today is. Today is Thursday, July 27th, 2023. I know because the internet told me so. Hello to the folks at Wisdom. Our first guest, let's see, we have a tie for first. I believe Zen Master was first. Hello, Zen Master. Thank you for joining me. And hello to the folks at Clubhouse. I'm not sure I'm going to keep doing Clubhouse for the short term, because I know when I switch over to the audio for the Wisdom guest, that Clubhouse cannot hear me, and that's a little weird. So I might stop that. I don't know. I think I'll decide after tomorrow's show. So it's an interesting time in America. On Wisdom, I added to the title. On YouTube, I just wrote that this is going to be random thoughts, and then on Wisdom, I wrote random thoughts and F bleep bleep CKER Carlson. I don't call him Tucker. I call him something else. Just take the T away and put an F there. That's what I call him. Effer Carlson. And I know he's kind of circling the drain, but he got on my radar last night because my son sent me a link to a Twitter video, or I guess now it's called X. I wish I was in the meeting where however number of people that Elon Musk consults for these things, assuming he consults everyone, he is a bit of a psychopath, so he might not consult anybody for these decisions. But what was that meeting like where he goes, hey, you know how we are one of the most recognizable brands on planet Earth using the name of Twitter, and inexplicably, well, I guess it's not inexplicable, but inexplicably we call our posts tweets, even though I refuse to say that. That sounds dumb to me. It's like, I get it, Twitter, bird, blah, 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 but I'm not going to call it a tweet. I'm going to call it a post. So I have Twitter posts. But, recognizable name, Twitter, tweets, all that stuff. Let's ruin all that. Let's destroy the branding that we've built up for so many years. And now let's call it X. And simultaneously, let's steal the logo from another company. I don't know if you're aware of that, but I think there's some German... what did they say they did? I think they might have been an EDM company or so. I don't know. I think it's a German company, but they stole the X from a German company. And it's not like it's close. It's not similar. They just stole it outright. Oh, what a jerk. But why? Why would you rebrand? Your brand is international. It's instantly recognizable. Everybody knows that Twitter is the giant bathroom wall on the internet. Why would you change the branding and then be so blatantly uncreative as to steal the logo from another company? Like, people notice these things. You know, you can't just do that anymore. It's not like it was. Like Dave Chappelle makes that joke about how, you know, years ago, if you wanted to leave your wife and children, you could just move one town over. Nobody would ever find you. Those days are long gone. Like, you know, I can tell that a lot of these Republican talking heads, these craven idiots, that they're used to the old paradigm. They're not used to being fact-checked, so they will just spew nonsense that very often contradicts the last nonsense that they spewed a day or two ago or last week or last year, and they don't realize, hey, we've got the receipts, right? That's what people call them now. When you have video or audio evidence of, or even written evidence of something someone said or did, like, we have the evidence, we have the receipts, we can show you what you said and how you're lying now, or how you changed your story now because you were lying then. You know, we've caught you. And it's like, Elon, like, people are going to notice that you stole the logo. It's so blatant. It's so disgusting. Like, what are you doing? You can afford to hire thousands of people who create logos. And I mean, I could have done a better logo. I'm not a professional graphic artist, but you know, the YouTube thumbnail is something that I created, all the logos and stuff, and they're decent. They're not great. You know, if you want to see a great logo, by the way, this is why I call this Random Thoughts, because here I am just going off. If you want to see what I consider to be just a masterpiece of a logo, it's the Universal logo and the Universal Studios logo. Those two logos are just stunning, just beautifully done. So intricate, so much fine detail, so many beautiful layers that blend perfectly together. Oh, I haven't, I've only scratched the surface of being able to create a logo like that. And it's all letters. It's just the words, you know, the word Universal or the words Universal Studios. Because I think that's the Disney attraction, is Universal Studios. And their logo work is just beautiful. Also the Warner Brothers logo, the way they stylized the WB and the shading and the 3D effect of it, it's just stunning work. It's beautiful work. And that is the nerdiest thing that I think about day to day. At this point, I don't do graphics every day, but almost every day. Sometimes it's just, you know, the new thumbnail, but I don't create graphics every day like I was doing, just because I don't have the time to do that. But sometimes, just for relaxation, I'll fire up the graphics program that I use. And I'm not getting paid by them, but it's Inkscape. It's a free program that's basically an alternative to Adobe Illustrator. Is anyone still awake? Hello? Hello? I really have become a computer geek. But yeah, so back to the reason that I brought up Twitter and got into their rebrand. Effer Carlson somehow got Ice Cube to agree to be on his show. I don't understand this. I wish I knew Ice Cube. I briefly dated a woman that knew him, was very close to him, but I ended that a long time ago, so I can't I burned that bridge. Let's say that. I burned that bridge spectacularly, so I can't reach out to her, but he agreed to be on the show of a guy who's just obviously and virulently racist. I mean, Effer Tucker, he is the one that was constantly promoting the idea of white replacement. This is some extreme paranoia. I think this is the result of the deep and profound guilt that some white folks feel about their racism and also their fear of a black planet, with all due respect to Public Enemy. They know that according to estimates, somewhere between 2040 and 2050, the census is going to reflect that the black and brown population is going to be combined larger than the white population. And I'm guessing that makes some people nervous, as George Lopez, who I don't think is particularly funny, once said, don't worry, white folks, we're going to treat you with the same respect you treated us. And that has got to make some white folks nervous. But this white replacement theory is quite stunning. And it's stunning only in its profound stupidity, that somehow Democrats are not protecting the border because they want white people replaced by black and brown people. Yeah, I didn't make that up. It's not a joke. That's what they actually think. The psychos, the virulently stupid that believe that this is a thing, a real thing in the world, that they are willing to open their pie hole and make these sounds come out of their mouth that culminate in the words white replacement. Yeah, that's a thing. That's a thing that some people think is actually happening. That is quite stunning. So for Ice Cube to be a guest on the show of a man who is what I would say publicly the chief proponent of this theory is something that I can't wrap my head around. I don't think Ice Cube is desperate for money, but who knows? I don't know. Maybe he's desperate for attention. Maybe he just doesn't know about Effer Carlson, which is possible. Celebrities at Ice Cube's level are the busiest people on the planet, alongside the president. These are just extremely busy people. They don't always get involved in the zeitgeist. And I see that John X wants to come on. I have heard your show before, John X. I think I might have spoken to you once, so I will bring you on in a moment. But yeah, it is amazing to me that Ice Cube decided, and the conversation was kind of ridiculous, and it seemed to be that Effer Tucker had an agenda, but I can't put my finger on it because he seemed to be stressing how Obama didn't help black people, that nothing changed when Obama was president, along with other things. But he was clever because he is a clever bloke, but, ultimately, I don't know what the hell he was trying to get at. So I'm going to bring John X on. It is a pleasure to have the opportunity to chat with you. And right now...
How you doing, Chocolate Yoddah?
I am excellent, man. How are you?
Good. Or should I say Yoda? Anyway, I saw the interview, and I want to get into that, but I want to ask you a question, though.
Yeah.
Do you really believe that Tucker Carlson actually believes in the white replacement theory? Or do you think that it's something that a narrative that he pushes because that's what his audience likes and that's what they get into? And he's doing it more for a financial reason than he is for something that he might not necessarily ideologically believe in per se, because this is
Well,
the same guy who they had the tapes of, who was out there and he was pushing all this information about everyone's anti-Trump, no one believes in Trump, and then what do? They come out and they have all these transcripts with him saying that Trump is like out of his head, out of his gourd, and
Yeah.
like, you can't believe he's pushing this stuff, but he did it willingly. So do you think that it might be more of a financial decision on his part to be pushing that narrative, as opposed to something that he actually believes in to his core?
Well, I have two answers for that. One is I don't care, because I don't care to try to figure out what he's thinking. And I also don't care because it doesn't matter because the damage is still done. So, he's promoting this stuff, and there are people that are engaging in violence as a result of his promoting it. So what his, because it's sort of the same idea as a hate crime, right? I don't understand the point of designating a crime a hate crime. And what I mean by that is if someone is thinking about puppies and flowers while they're stomping my head in, does that make the stomping any less violent and painful? So what's the point? So I mean, you can tack on time, which is good, but the net effect of it is something that I don't understand. And so what Tucker Carlson believes or is thinking while he's saying this horrible stuff is immaterial to me.
It's a very good answer, and I can understand that. The reason being is that, for me personally, whenever I'm listening to a source of information, I like to know what their motivation is.
Sure.
And for me, when I look at Tucker Carlson, I don't believe that he's like a great ideological believer in many of the things that he pushes forward. I,
Fair
I just
enough.
happen to I believe that he is the R word, without a question. Racist, without a question. Do I believe that he actually is like, he's for these people when he's pushing this narrative? Nah, I don't believe that for a second. Because a guy like Tucker Carlson he's smarter than that. He's more intelligent than that. He realizes that the reason why those people don't have jobs has more to do with the fact that manufacturing is in other countries now. If you're in Virginia, for example, the coal mines aren't pushing out coals like they used to.
Right.
Some mining, a lot of areas that we see depression where a lot of white people are experiencing meth and drugs. These people where you have walking zombies walking around. They're only one or two generations away from full time employment in mines that were probably terrible jobs too. But
Right.
at least it gave them an identity. And right now, what he's doing is he's doing what a lot of politicians are doing. He's taking advantage of the fact that these people who didn't have much to begin with have been stripped of their identity. And how do you keep them as a voting bloc and keep them on your side? And the way you do that is by pushing hate out there, because there's no greater motivator than hate in this country, especially with a lot of Caucasian Americans, and especially the lower class Caucasian Americans. I think Dave Chappelle said it best in his show when he made light of it. He made a joke. He was like online and he was like, the people I don't like are the poor whites. They're the ones that are
Yeah.
really messing everything up. And he
Yeah.
made it as a joke, but it's really actually at the really heart of the matter. It's like we have all these people that identified with working as being better than you or I, because you and I both know that 100 black families moving into those areas, they could have 100 openings, and they're not going to hire 100 black people moving in those areas. They're going to do things whatever they can possibly to get by before they allow those people to feed their families. That's the history of the United States of America.
Yeah. Well, that's as the lyrics of the song go, same as it ever was. That's from looking into American history, and I'm certainly no historian, but I can read English pretty well, and it seems like the way America is right now is exactly what it's always been. When when I look at like a simple fact, like I never refer to America as the United States because it's literally never been united, not for a second. Like literally, the country started with people divided on the question of whether it was okay to own human beings, and in less than 100 years of its history as a new country, it went to war with itself to answer that question. Right, so it's go back as far as you want, 1492, 1619. Like, it doesn't matter what year you pick as the beginning. It's a place that's never been united. And the fact is that the way the world works, because this is not unique to America, uh, America has some uniqueness in the way it applies this, but if you look at everywhere in the world, there is a small amount of people that control the money and control the resources and control the power. In America, businesses own the government runs our lives on behalf of those businesses. That's how it works.
That's without a doubt. And when you talk about Ice Cube is also, at this point in time, he's identifying more as a businessman than he is as necessarily a black person per se. He's got the big three that he started. He's always been a little bit. This is the same guy that sat down and he said, I'll sit down and I'll talk to Trump and and see what he has to offer for us, and and it basically he pushed that, that Trump was a good thing for black people as opposed to other things. And it's funny, I had a conversation yesterday, not on this app, but on a different app, the Stereo app, and it's supposed to be a. I decided to participate because it's supposed to be a basketball conversation about my favorite team, who are the Brooklyn Nets, and it broke out into a conversation about vaccines, and and the moderator of the group was like all about Donald Trump at that point in time, and explaining how his policies were better for black people than anyone else and things of that nature, and how his economy was good. And the thing is that always worries me about these things is because most of these people that are having these conversations about government, they're really new to the conversation and paying attention of how this country has actually worked traditionally. And for
Yeah.
example, they talk about Obama, and Obama, just like any other president, whenever we come out of a presidency, we're still in the previous president's economy for the first year or two.
Well, it's actually the first 8 months. It goes into October of the first year. So yeah, yeah,
Okay, but a guy like Trump, who didn't actually put through any policies and didn't
yeah,
actually do anything, I
right,
would think it would probably be safe to say that it was a little bit longer. But
yeah,
they're pushing his policies, and the only thing the guy actually did was like he lowered the corporate tax rate to 15%. He gave
yeah,
corporations a break, and my point was that corporations are not Americans. They are, owned by everyone else and a few Americans. So, getting back to Tucker Carlson, these people that are marching and these things, like, they don't even realize that white Americans, quote unquote, don't even own the majority of this country anymore. Or if they do, they're barely holding a percentage of ownership. I see it all the time with what I do in real estate. The money is coming from Saudi Arabia. The money's coming from China. The money's coming from every other country. And those people are not invested in replacing you or not replacing you. They don't care what color you are. They just want the lowest possible. They want to pay the lowest possible price. If they're Indian, if they come from India, they're used to paying people nothing. So when they come over to the United States and they invest, the first thing they say is that, hey, why are we paying these people so much money? These are the agendas that these people are fighting against. It's not a racial agenda, but you know that. But these people are just like they're too stupid. And there I go. I did it again. I promise not to call people stupid, but
yeah.
they really are.
And well, here's the thing. Not that I will ever defend the behavior of these people, but I will address the idea of stupidity, because it is a harsh judgment to decide that someone's stupid rather than someone that can be manipulated, because you don't have to be stupid to be manipulated. In fact, very, very smart people are manipulated all the time. That is the function of propaganda. And I talk about it a lot because it is the most powerful communication tool in the world. And it doesn't matter what your education level is. It's a brain hack. It was developed by a psychologist, a very famous psychologist. His name was Edward Bernays, and the only reason I know that is because he was Sigmund Freud's nephew. So we're talking about a very powerful psychology family, and he figured out that repetitive messaging will get through to the brain no matter what, no matter how smart you are, no matter how dumb you are. If you take a message and you repeat it over and over and over again, and you never waver, and you are supremely confident in your messaging, people will believe it. That's why people believe that the 2020 election was stolen, because that messaging started before the 2020 election, months before, and really years before. If you think about the groundwork that Donnie Dump laid, was fake news, right? He started that movement, and which is an assault on the fourth estate of America, one, the most important industry, because I think it's the only industry cited in the Constitution, and it's the idea of who watches the watchers, right? So once you start assaulting the news, and then you start repeating these other messages over and over again, no matter how smart someone is, they are going to be susceptible to that.
And that's exactly the reason why I decided that I was going to stop calling people dumb, because I realized it's not really dumb. It's really more ignorance, lack of knowledge, of understanding how you've been fooled and how you've been
Right.
tricked.
Yeah, it's dismissive and reductive to call someone stupid. Do some people deserve it? Yes. But as a general rule, it's the same as like, it's sort of like when you said that, Ice Cube identifies more as a businessman than a black man. Is that something you heard him say about himself?
I've heard him basically allude to. I wouldn't say that. I wouldn't say that. No, I haven't heard him say that.
Okay, so that's the interesting thing. So that's when we start to assign values and characteristics to people. And I'm not saying you're wrong. You could very well be right. But if he didn't say it about himself, then we're working with assumptions, right? I don't know what's in Ice Cube's mind. I don't know what's in his head. I'm only going to look at his actions. And yes, his actions could now be completely aligned with that of the way business works, because he's at that level that he can make those kind of decisions. He can be influential. And whether it's malevolent or benevolent, I don't know. You said that he aligned with Dump because he thought that Dump was going to be a good thing. And, a few people got that message. Even 50 Cent was saying that kind of thing. He was saying, oh, he's going to be good for my taxes and stuff. So that's narrow-minded. That might be a function of ignorance. Who knows? But some people did think that there was a chance that Dump was going to be a good idea.
Well, I always tell people, vote your interest. And whenever someone is like that, whenever someone makes that type of assumption or makes that type of leap, obviously 50 Cent is not interested in paying as many taxes. And,
Right.
If you're at that point, the reason why it becomes short-sighted is because, and this was like kind of the breadth of what came out in the conversation last night, it becomes short-sighted because the real question isn't whether or not commerce works. The real question is,
Yeah. Hold that thought and come back up. Come back up. All right. I'm in suspense. I want to know the answer to what is the real question. Fire away.
The real question to me is like, it's more of an ideological one, because it's a deeper conversation with AI and with the way business is gone and things like that. It's, do you believe in people more than you believe in commerce? Because that's really what the conversation is. One of the gentlemen I was talking to last night, it's like I slapped him in the face and everything. And I have to say something about, like, kind of like when I make these statements, and when I made that statement about Ice Cube and my perception based upon having seen an interview with him at that time when he was taking a lot of flack for even talking to Trump or
Hmm.
meeting Trump, and with the Tucker Carlson interview and everything. I say that with no judgment whatsoever. I'm a firm believer that in this country, one of the things that made this country work for a long time is that people were more tolerant of both sides, and generally, what we ended up with a resolution that was neither good for 100% good for one side or 100% good for the other side. And there was something in it for everyone.
Yeah, well, and that's the nature of compromise. No one's going to get 100% of what they want.
Exactly. And the problem today is with people talking is that everyone is like, one of my friends likes to always say, it's like people in the United States are not unsuccessful. They just are not like, losers or incapable. They're just temporarily unsuccessful. We're just all temporarily down on our luck. And one day, you're going to come up with the idea, or you're going to come up with the company or the business going to make you multiples of millions of dollars. And this life existence that you're living in is going to make more sense. The things that you say and the sides you take are going to make more sense than they actually do right now. Um, and it's incredible to think of, because I mean, I look at everybody around me, I look at the people that I come into contact with, and everyone can't run a business. Everyone can't start a business. Some people,
Yeah, yeah,
they can't think for themselves when they turn 17, 18 years old. And that's the reason why some people join the military, because it's easier to be told what to do than have to make a choice.
yeah,
And this isn't everyone, this is some people. Everyone has different reasons for doing the things
yeah.
that they do. But in this country, the way it is right now, without people having, for example, we used to have conversations in 2008 when it started with the Obama thing and even before that with George Bush. The big conversation was not about jobs; it was about living wage jobs.
Well, yeah, but just on that quick point, that's another function of propaganda. The fear of socialism is something that is entirely propagandized. America functions under several aspects of socialism. Like the fact that you and I are talking right now, the electricity and the infrastructure that facilitates signals bouncing off a satellite so that we can communicate is a socialist function. That's something the government provides as part of the infrastructure. The roads that you drive on, the water that comes to your house, the garbage that gets picked up, all of these, and there's a long list of socialist functions in America, but because Americans have been conditioned to be afraid of that, some people are afraid of it.
And they don't understand it completely, because that's just basically what you said to me. You said that they know that there are elements of socialism in everything, and it's intertwined in our society. But yet, when you say the word, it's it takes on a complete and totally different meaning, value, strength, facade, look. And it's almost impossible to solve a problem if you don't know what the root of the problem is, and you can't understand the minutia of it, and you
Sure.
don't understand how things may go one way or the other way in order to fit you, and how
Right.
sometimes it's better to give up something in order to get something different. And
Right.
that's part of the problem with these people, marching out here saying, these people, the pushing this replacement theory. There's a certain level of truth to that, but the level of truth to it is simply that Americans don't want to work at Family Dollar for minimum wage. They don't want to work at Walmart for minimum wage. And if you do work at Walmart for minimum wage, guess what? When you get your application, they also hand you a DSS packet. So that
Yeah.
way you can get food stamps, because they're not going to work you 40 hours a week. They're not going to give you enough hours so that way you can pay for a mortgage, and they're not going to give you health benefits. So
Yeah.
you're going to have to rely on the government for all of those things. So you're kind of damned if you do and damned if you don't if you're in that situation.
Yeah, well, that's the way the game is structured. And again, this is one of those same as it ever was moments. I've mentioned this before, and people might get tired of hearing it, but I think it's so significant that all historians refer to James Madison as the chief architect of the Constitution. And in the first Federal Convention of 1787 in Philadelphia, he wrote something that's a part of the publicly available record of that convention. It's on page 400 something, I think 422 or something like that. But, and I don't have the quote in front of me, but he basically was saying that the government's role should be to protect wealthy people from everyone else. The way he said it was protect the few opulent from the other many, right? Which is, it can be interpreted as protect the wealthy from the poor, but I think it means just protect the wealthy from everybody. Because, that was a time in history where citizens would rise up and kill the royal family, so they knew, they were like, yeah, and again, the chief architect, this is the most popular, influential founding father with regard to the Constitution. And that's what he said. And guess what? That's what America's always been. In every financial crisis that America has ever experienced, the first response of the government is, are wealthy people okay? Right? I mean, we just saw it in 2020. They printed $2.1 trillion, and 83% of that money went to wealthy individuals and businesses. You've got the sixth largest publicly traded oil companies. And the last time I looked at this was the first quarter of 2022, I believe. They made $30 billion, not in revenue, in profit. $30 billion in profit, and those companies are getting government subsidies, same as it ever was.
We mentioned that we actually were talking about this week on my show, and we were talking about, for example, when one of the big things that people will say that they're not racist is that we were slaves too. We were indentured servants, right?
Yeah.
That's the big talking point, right?
Yeah.
That's their gotcha moment. Okay. And it's true. But the simple fact of the matter is, you sold black people out at that point in time. That was the beginning of a long line. That was what set up the rest of, to this very day. Those poor whites sold out black people. They told them, look, they were worried that there were more slaves and indentured servants than there were rich people. And like you said, at that point in time, this is when the royal family could get killed. You could get
Yeah.
murdered,
Yeah.
So what did they do? They said, listen, you guys are no longer slaves and everything. And now we're going to give you the right to own property and like go to law, and you can actually go to court. They couldn't go to court before. They had
Yeah.
no rights to go to court. They say, we're going to make you whole. We're going to make you a man. They gave these people, and what is it that Tim Wise, even Tim Wise says it, we're going to make you the slave catchers. We're going to make you the slave patrol, which is the beginning of the police. We're
Police. Yeah.
not going to pay you much,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
we're going to give you that authority and everything. And for those little benefits, for those couple of little crumbs, they were like, yeah, you know what? We're no longer going to rebel against these people because we've got a little bit of a piece of this pie right
Yeah.
now. And
Yeah.
years later, hundreds of years later, we're living in the residual effects of that, to the point
Yeah.
where these people feel like they're still supposed to be getting these benefits more so than anyone else.
Yeah.
Now it's a birthright.
Right. And people don't realize that the huge economic imbalance between white folks and black and brown folks, I believe for every $13 that I think it's, what is it, 13 to 1, something like
It's
every
13 to 1.
$13.
It's
Yeah,
13
13.
to 1.
Yeah. So yeah, that's crazy, and much of that is because black and brown folks were kept out of land ownership. And it is what it is. That's why when people make the argument that slavery ended in 1865, it's like, yeah, it got redirected. It didn't end. Like even the document that people reference, which is the 13th Amendment, like literally the first paragraph says slavery is illegal unless you're incarcerated. And then you can treat people as slaves. So, and then, the black codes came, and then the Jim Crow era came, and then, black cities were being destroyed just because white folks were terrified that they might get any kind of footing in the economic and power structure. So, it's not like, slavery ended and just everything was cool after that. Like, that's a ridiculous idea. And to your point, white folks are still benefiting from that structure and black folks are not. Like the FHA laws explicitly excluded black folks. The GI Bill explicitly in the law excluded black folks. So it's people just don't, even highways, the fact that black families were displaced and white families weren't, these are all racist functions, and it ain't ancient history. Who was it? Well, I don't want to say the name in case I'm wrong, but a big, huge bank just got busted for redlining. This was something that was made illegal in 1985, and it's still happening because they're still trying to divide and conquer.
Yep. And because it works.
Yes.
Because it works.
Same
and that's
as it ever was.
Same as it ever the and everything. The only like, if you're that type of person, the only type of comfort is that, my friend said something on the show last week. He was like, in order to hold somebody down, you got to be down there with them. Yeah. And that's exactly what America is experiencing right now. If you want to continue, so you want to find these cutesy ways to change the wording and everything and continue to hold people down. But guess what? Now the gap is being completely and totally, like, now, as you're holding me down, that gap is getting so high. They're coming after your house. They're coming after your single family residence. They're coming after your jobs. They're coming after your pay. And, there's not going to be anyone for you to knock on the door to ask, because, 40 years ago and everything at town hall, you knew Commissioner Thomas. He was your neighbor, lived a couple of blocks up, and he came to the block party. Now, right. Commissioner Thomas's, his like whole campaign was paid for by somebody in Saudi Arabia.
Right.
Or was paid for by some PAC.
Right. Yeah. That's another thing people are woefully ignorant of, is how much Saudi money is in the American government. It is shocking.
Oh, geez. If they knew the actual figures. See, I know these things because I was a mortgage banker first, and I'm in real estate now. So I'm still in that world. I always get like, when I was doing investment properties, there was a time when guys were saying, hey, you got to get with these Chinese guys. They're bringing all this money in, and they're spending and everything, and they don't care who they're spending with and everything. And that was true. The Saudis, all you have to look at is the fact that, within a matter of 2 years, they've bought half of the PGA Tour, golf tour.
Yeah.
That is like, that is rich people's money. And the problem is that, the problem with that is that these people think, these people that are marching saying white Jews will not replace us and all of these other different things, they think that the people that actually have the money that look like them actually care about them. But if you look at what happened with the PGA Tour, they sold out. You had guys that were selling out, that were giving up their tour cards first for exorbitant amounts of money, 2, 3,
you're
4, 5.
You're about to run out of time, John, and unfortunately I have to get going. But I want everybody to check out John's podcast, Born in Trouble, and his Wisdom channel. It's good stuff. I've listened to him a few times, and thank you, John. You were a great enhancement to this episode. I truly appreciate your participation. And I'm going to say hello to the folks on Wisdom before I head out of here. Hello, Marcianne, Queen of Swords, and Queen is spelled Kween. Love it. Zen Master, Truly Julie, Cecilia Grace, Michael J., Penny Frampton, K. Jeter, Magnificent Aquarius, Greg's Take, my buddy Greg. In my opinion, Greg's Take is the best wisdom channel. And I don't care who knows it. And I have, very stylized writing. Looks like Teddy. I think formerly the artist known as Chuck, but judging by the icon. But Teddy's on here. Life, Love, Lessons. We heard from John X. And rounding out, we've got Joshua Allen and Asel Lam. I think that's how you say it. So thank you, folks, for indulging my random thoughts today. Again, I can't emphasize how wonderful the contribution was from John X. It really made this episode hum along. And I do this every day, Monday through Friday, 2 p.m. Eastern Time. If you want to watch it, although I think on YouTube, today's episode was probably completely jacked up because none of the tech was working right. But I might have a chance to fix that. But on YouTube, you could find me, youtube.com/@thepersistentrumor. That is the channel. If you want to check out the live shows, you just click on the live tab. Otherwise, there's over 300 videos that you can watch in the other section between full-length videos, shorts, all that good stuff. And I'm on Wisdom and I'm on Clubhouse. But again, I think maybe starting with Monday, I might not include Clubhouse because I think, I have to double check, but I think Clubhouse cannot hear the whole conversation. So until that's fixed, I think I might refrain from broadcasting on that. But other than those useless comments I just made, thank you, everybody, again for listening. Peace, love, and granola. Talk to you soon.